What's up, millionaires? Mitch Durfee here, and in this video I'm going to show you guys how you can buy your first rental property. Now, yesterday I was at a networking event. We had about a dozen real estate investors there, and there was a small group of people that have been searching for their first rental property for over a year now. And I thought to myself, I can remember back when I was getting started investing in real estate, and there was just a few things that I just didn't understand. So I wanted to create this video so that way if you're stuck or you're thinking about buying your first investment property, this video will show you exactly how to do that in just a few steps. But before we go too far, you know how important it is to make sure you smack that like button, leave a comment below, and subscribe to this channel for more content like this. And with that said, let's get started. Okay, so step number one, you have to save up a down payment. Now, I know a lot of people have heard about a few different programs out there. There are programs where you can only save up as little as 3.5% down. Those are FHA loans, or even a VA home loan where you can purchase a property with 0% down. But for the majority of people that are watching this video that maybe have already purchased the home, ideally, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put down 20% down on a property. Now, that just puts you into conventional loans. It's very standard stuff. You can go to any bank, any credit union, any lender, and ideally what they're going to be asking you for is 20% down. So what do you do if you don't have 20% down? Well, there's a few different things you can do. One, you can start saving right now, or the other thing you can do is you can find an investment partner that may already have cash. A lot of people that get started investing in real estate typically get started this way. They find someone else that has a common interest, whether they're at a networking event, or maybe it's a family member, someone else that's interested in investing in real estate, and they can combine their money with the experience of someone that is looking for properties or finding deals or has just experience managing properties. But ideally, you're going to need 20% down. Whether that's your money or someone else's money, you'll need 20% down to be able to buy this investment rental property. Step number two, your credit score. Now, I don't know where you're at with your credit score, but ideally lenders would like to see your credit score above 700. Now, there are lending companies out there that will approve a loan with credit scores a little lower, but you're going to get the best rates when your credit score is above 700. The closer to 800 you can get, the better discounted points you'll get on your interest rate. So maybe you don't have your credit in order right now. Well, good news is I've actually wrote a book called 101 Credit Repair Secrets, and this book, I will drop a link below. So if you've ever worried about your credit score and you've ever thought that your credit score wasn't in the right place in order for you to be able to buy a rental property, well, this book will help you repair that. Another great resource is creditkarma.com. Now, creditkarma.com didn't sponsor me in any way, but I'm sure you've heard of it. It's a great app that you can download on your phone, and it'll give you tips for you to be able to repair your credit. Again, you're going to want your credit score above 700 at the minimum in order for you to be able to start getting lending or financing for your next rental property. Okay. Before I go too much farther, I've already dropped a couple different tips on you, but I really want to encourage you guys, if you haven't already hit that like button, make sure to do that now and leave a comment. And then from here, we'll go on to the next steps. But again, those likes, subscribes, and comments really help out this channel. So please, if you haven't done that already, go ahead and do that, and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, this next step is very important. Make sure you have all of your documents in order before you start searching for your rental property. In this step, what we're going to be talking about is getting pre-approved for financing by a lender. In order for you to do that, you're going to want to have at least 2 years of your tax records. So if you're like other investors out there, you want to make sure that you're paying more taxes, because lenders are going to look at what your adjusted gross income is for the year and be able to approve you for a loan based on your income. So don't be writing off all your taxes to save money on taxes every year. If you're going to be buying a rental property, it's important for you to get those taxes up and pay a little more taxes so you can be able to afford a larger rental property. The other thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that your employment history over the last 60 days is there, right? Because lenders are going to be looking at your pay stubs for the last 60 days. So you need your 2 years taxes and you need pay stubs for the last 60 days. Take all this information and go to either a mortgage broker or to your local bank or credit union, and they will be able to approve you for a set number, whatever, that's your pre-approved number. So say you're approved for $200,000, you can actually look for properties that are a little bit above that, so that way you know that if you find a property for $200,000, that there's a little more value if you make certain changes. But you still need to be pre-approved in order for you to start looking for a house, because the lender is basically going to take your credit score, your 2 years taxes, your income statements, and they're going to say, hey, you are approved for X dollars. And again, this is important because before you start looking at rental properties that are way outside of your budget, you're just really going to be wasting your time and also the realtor's time. So after you have all these things in order, get pre-approved, and then you can start your hunt for that pre-approval number plus about 10 to 15%. All right, congratulations, you are pre-approved. You've already spoke to the lender. They have told you how much house you can afford. The next step is to speak to a realtor. And here's why. When you're buying a property, agents have access to houses that are on the market that have already been listed. Now, if those houses have already been listed, then the seller has agreed to pay the commission to a buyer's agent. So if you're looking to purchase a rental property, you might as well speak to a realtor because their commission is already going to be paid by the seller. Now, there are a few other places that you can begin to look for houses. You can look on Realtor.com, Zillow.com, Trulia, Facebook Marketplace, and Craigslist. But in this phase, you're going to want to speak to a realtor because they're going to be able to, one, bring a lot of experience, especially when it comes to figuring out the rents in the market, the value of the house, and negotiating the price for you. So make sure you speak to a realtor and start looking for houses. You're going to also want to look at least a dozen homes before you decide to put an offer on a property. And again, the reason for this is once you look at a dozen rental properties, you're going to start to get an idea of what your market actually looks like. So that way when you see the right property, you can compare it to the other homes. So I highly encourage you to jump online and start looking at every house in your price range. Okay, at this point we are about halfway through, and honestly, this is where most people get stuck. So if you haven't already, like this video, drop a comment below, or share this video with someone else out there that is stuck. The next few steps are going to be very critical for you buying a rental property or other people. And I want to take a few extra minutes, so it's going to be a little longer for these sections. But again, I want to make sure that you guys understand that you're not alone if you're stuck at this part. Maybe you've already done the credit repair, you've already got pre-approved for a property, you've already been looking at properties, but this is where a lot of people get stuck. And I want to walk you through the next steps. But again, make sure you drop a comment below if you've been stuck here or you're at this point. Let us know where you're at on your rental property journey. If you've already bought a property, let us know that in the comment section below. But again, encourage people to get past this part. We're about halfway and we're going to get you all the way through so you can buy your first rental property. Okay, this step is kind of a 4-step process. So we'll call this step 5, A, B, C, and D. Now this process is calculating cash flow. Okay, so how do you calculate cash flow for a property? Again, it's a 4-step process. The first step is you have to determine the total gross rents for the property. So if you're buying a single family property, it's very easy to calculate. You look at what you can rent that property for, and that is your gross rents. Do you have questions about what you can rent your property for? Well, there's a couple resources out there. One of them is rentdata.org. You can find out what properties are renting for in your market. The other place I like to look is on Craigslist to compare the property that I'm thinking about buying to other houses that are on Craigslist for rent. And the third place is on Zillow. You can see all these other properties that are already rented for a certain amount of money, and that's how you can calculate what you can get for your property. Maybe your property isn't as nice as those properties and they're getting $1,000 a month. Well, if you're getting $800 a month, you can improve your property and you can raise those rents for that house and get your rents up to that. So look at rentdata.org, Craigslist, or Zillow to find out what other houses are renting in the area for. Now, if it's a duplex, you take the combined rents of the two units. If it's a fourplex, you take what you can rent out each unit for and multiply it by 4. That's your gross monthly rents. So that's step 1 of the 4-step process, is to determine the gross rents for the property. The second part is to deduct all of your expenses from the property, whether that's property management, maintenance, utilities, insurance, and all these other expenses that go into it. Once you deduct all of those expenses, the third step is to deduct your debt services. That's basically your mortgage payment. Okay, and step number 3 talked about calculating your debt services. So this calculator, mortgagecalculator.org, is a free resource where you can actually go in here and you can type in the home value and you can type in your down payment, whether you're doing your 0% VA home loan, your 3.5% down for FHA, or your conventional 20% down. This calculator will break down how much your debt services will be monthly. You can even put down how many years for your loan. And what I also like to do is I like to click on this show amortization table where you can actually show your annual amortization. And again, the reason I say you want to click on that to find out what your debt services are is because if you're buying a property for cash flow, maybe it doesn't cash flow in the first year, but never buy a property, especially if you are a new investor, never buy a property that has a negative cash flow. In other words, at the end of the month, you're not generating at least enough to cover your mortgage and your monthly expenses. So if you buy something that at least breaks even, you can see down here that you have this little hidden gold mine, which is incredible when it comes to owning a rental property. So if you were to buy a property for $200,000 and you were to put $40,000 down on it, your monthly mortgage payment would be just under $1,200. So if you rented it out for a couple $100 more than that, then you would be able to at least break even on your monthly expenses. Now down here, what's going to happen is your tenant is going to be paying you in the form of principal. So over a 5-year period, you're basically saving up around $15,000 just by letting your tenant pay down your mortgage. So this is how you calculate debt service. Again, we always try to buy for cash flow. So on this property, I would like to see the rents around $2,000 a month gross, which would give you a pretty decent cash flow once you calculate all your expenses. Again, this calculator has the built-in taxes and also your homeowner's insurance, which you can adjust right here. So you can really get a good idea of what your total cash flow would be per month. And again, this hidden section right here is when you buy a property. And this is why I encourage you guys to get into your first rental property, is to let your tenants start to pay down your principal. And then at the end of the day, when you sell this property, you get to recapture all this principal plus your initial down payment. Calculate your gross monthly rent, you deduct your expenses, and then you deduct your debt services, and that will give you your monthly cash flow for the property. And the final part to the cash flow equation is you want to calculate whether or not you are able to raise rents to meet the market standards. So example, if you are able to buy a property and the rents haven't been raised in a lot of years, or you're buying a property that needs a little bit of a renovation, when you do those renovations, you're able to increase your gross monthly rents. And the other part is you also want to figure out whether or not you're able to reduce the monthly expenses. Maybe they've been spending too much on maintenance or utilities because they're not using toilets that have low flow rates, or they have a running toilet, or they have a running faucet, or they're not using LED lights. There are lots of different ways to reduce your expenses. So figuring out whether or not you can increase rents and reduce expenses, that will also factor into your cash flow for a property. The next part where people get stuck is at this making an offer stage. They are either afraid that once they make this, that there is no way out, that they are on the line, they have to buy this property. Well, that's simply not true, because typically when you're writing an offer, I really highly encourage you to write the offer with inspection clauses and also finance clauses. So if you're thinking about buying a property, you've done all your research, the property makes sense, it cash flows, and you're at that place where you're a little hesitant to make the offer, I really want you to just go out there and make an offer on that property, but put a clause in there for an inspection. You've done all the homework. The property is the right property, but maybe there's something that you haven't seen yet. Well, a home inspection actually costs a little less than $500 for them to do, sometimes a little more if you're buying a multifamily. But again, for $500, that's your insurance backup and also your second opportunity to negotiate the price or to back out of the property. So once you make an offer that makes sense, go ahead and write up the contract, send it over. Also, make sure when you make this offer for the property, you make the offer that makes sense for you. A lot of the money on rental properties is when you make the purchase. So if someone's asking $240,000 for a property and it doesn't really make sense at $240,000, make the offer that makes sense. You're not going to offend them. Just get offers out there, again, with that inspection clause. At first, I was gonna skip past this part, but I think that it's very, very critical that I do share this part with you. So you've made an offer, you've had that inspection clause in there, and you did your inspection. Now at this point, you're gonna have an inspection report that's gonna always have items listed on there. At this point, you basically get to decide whether or not you want the homeowner to either fix those pieces. Maybe it's a handrail that needs to be fixed, maybe it's a roof that needs to be fixed, maybe it's a foundation that needs to be fixed, peeling paint, windows, whatever it may be. Home inspectors are always going to find something, because at the end of the day, if you paid an inspector to show up and they didn't find something, you'd probably feel like you got ripped off. So you basically have four choices at this point. You have the sellers. They can either fix the items that are on the inspection reports that matter to you. They don't have to fix the items that are on their inspection reports because you're okay with the property in the way that it is. Or you can ask the sellers for a credit or cash back or reduce the price for the property. And the fourth choice is you can actually terminate the entire contract because the seller is not willing to fix any of these items, or the house has too many problems and you just don't want to deal with them. Yes, congratulations, you made it past the inspection, you've made it past the offer, and now you're sitting at the closing table and you're getting ready to close, and you're looking over the HUD to see all these final payments that you have to make, and you realize that, oh my God, I have to pay an extra 1 to 3% to be able to close on this loan. Well, good thing you guys watched this video first, because there are different ways to get your seller to actually pay those closing costs. But the reason I wanted to put this in the video is because I didn't want you to be surprised when you got to the closing table and you saw some extra fees on there for around 1 to 3% of the property. So for example, if you're buying a property that's around $200,000, you can expect to see around $2,000 on the closing statement. But I actually plan on around 3% whenever I buy a property, because again, there's lending fees, there's closing docs, there's title, there's all these different fees that go into it. So here's a little pro tip. Not every seller is going to give it to you, but I usually like to have a good realtor ask for 3% back at closing, so that way I don't have to worry about these closing costs. The seller will typically pay my closing costs. Now, this doesn't always work in a hot market, but if you're able to buy a property for $200,000 and ask for 3% back, it's a great way to get your sellers to pay your closing costs. Now, after you get past the closing tables and these closing docs and you sign it, that's when you get your keys. This is a really exciting time for you. You are about to start getting that cash flow. You're about to start getting that principal paid down. But before you get too excited, there are a few things that you typically have to do after this, and I'll share those with you guys in the next step. Okay, we are getting close. In this step, after you close on the property, there's typically going to be a time that comes up that you're going to need to do renovations to the property. I like to do these when I first get the property under my possession. And the reason I do this is because I want to show my tenants that I'm very active. If I haven't already updated the leases, what I'll typically do is I'll go over to the property and I will ask the tenants if there is a list of items that they would like done. And the reason I ask them this is because it's a quick way for me to be able to update the leases and say, hey, I'm going to be able to do some renovations to your property, the things that are on your wish list. And then I also come back with a new lease agreement and I raise the rents if possible. So if you're not raising your rents and you don't plan on raising the rents or any of that stuff, well, then this doesn't really matter as much. But there is going to be a time that you're going to have to do some renovations to these properties, whether it's kitchens, baths, roofs, whatever it may be. But the thing is, I want to make sure that when you own this property, that you understand that it's not just a buy the property and just let it go, even if you have property managers. So if you're doing renovations to these properties, there's a few things that I want to suggest to you. One, always ask for referrals from other people that have properties, because it's likely that they have a handyman or they have a contractor or they have someone that can do these renovations for you and they've had experience with them and it's been a good experience. If you're not able to find someone, you can go to networking events, you can go to real estate meetups, or the other place that I suggest that you find contractors is at Home Depot or Lowe's on a Sunday nice and early, because these contractors are typically the workers that are actually showing up, they're actually getting the work done, they're hungry, they're driven. And once you find a contractor, again, it's important for you to get at least 3 bids, because typically what's going to happen is you're going to have a contractor that's way below price, you're going to have a contractor that's probably in the middle, and you're going to have a contractor that's way overpriced. And no matter what price a contractor ever tells you, just plan on that price being about 10% below what it's actually going to cost. So if a contractor tells you it's going to cost you $20,000 to do all these renovations, just plan on spending a little bit more. And that's just because that's just how the business is. They always come back to you and saying that they need one more piece of material or whatever it may be. So whatever your renovation budget is, always tap on a little bit more for that. So once you have your renovations planned and you have this like rental increase and your new lease is done, again, the other thing that I want to encourage you guys to do is when these renovations are happening, make sure you or someone you trust is on site, because I cannot tell you how many times I've had a renovation project go longer just because the contractor was taking his workers and sending 2 people off to another site. And basically, you want to be on site as often as you can. You want to show up at random times, because you want to make sure that if they're not there, you can pick up the phone, you can call your contractor, and you can complain, because whoever is complaining, just like the squeaky wheel gets the grease, you'll actually get the workers there. And listen, this is a business. If you don't get this renovation done, you're likely going to be missing out on rent. So it actually costs you money to not be making these phone calls and to not show up on the projects while renovations are happening. All right, you have a rental property, but maybe you own this rental property and you've never rented a property, so you're not really sure what to do. So this section here, I'm just going to give you a quick rundown on what it looks like to own a property and some of the things that you're going to have to do from here going forward. Now, you've just finished the renovation on a property, or maybe you've just closed on the property. Well, at this stage, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to hire a professional photographer, or maybe you're a photographer and you go through and you take high quality photos. The 2 reasons for this is, 1, these high quality photos will actually protect you in the future if a tenant ever does any damage to the property, which is probably likely, but these high quality photos, you'll be able to show the condition of the property before you rented it to them. And the second thing is, these high quality photos will allow you to market the property in the best way possible. So if you put these photos out on Zillow or Facebook Marketplace to be able to find your tenants, these high quality photos are going to get you the highest amount of rent for your property. Now, maybe you don't want to rent the property, maybe you just want someone else to manage the entire property and experience for you. That's totally fine. There are property management companies companies that can handle all of this for you. Again, what I recommend you do is you go to a networking event or you reach out to other investors and you ask them for a referral for a property management company, because I can tell you this, not all property management companies are the same. There are property management companies that have a lot of experience and they manage a lot of units and they have a lot of systems, and all their contracts are pretty much ironclad, so you never really have to worry about evictions as much. So if you don't want to handle all of this stuff yourself, then ask for property managers. But the two parts of this part that I really want you to understand is make sure that when you're ready to rent this property, you take high quality photos to protect you and also to get the most value for your property. And if you don't want to manage it yourself and you don't want to worry about finding tenants and screening tenants or any of that stuff, then reach out to a property management company. Congratulations, you own a rental property. I am really proud of you, and thank you so much for sticking to the very end. If you didn't already like, comment, and subscribe to this channel, please make sure you do that now. There is one final thing after you close on the property and you get this property rented, and that is to rinse and repeat. So even though you've already watched this video one time and you've gone through and you bought your first rental property, now I want to encourage you guys to go back and watch the video again, because it's likely that you may have missed something. But also, when I say rinse and repeat, do this exact same process as often as you can. Save up your down payment, make sure your credit's in order, get pre-approved for a loan, work with an agent, and get started investing in real estate, because what happens is this cash flow will compound over time. That principal pay down will start to compound over time. There are tax benefits that I didn't even mention in this video. Now, all of these things, if you want more information on this, I do have a free Facebook group. It's called the Real Estate Property Warriors Group, and inside that group, we have helped so many people buy their first $1 million worth of investment properties, and I want you guys to join us there. It's free. Again, if you haven't already picked up the Credit Repair Secrets book, I will leave a link below so you can start improving your credit. And again, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure you share this video with some other real estate investors, because I know that they are on the fence. This video is designed to help you and to help those people in the world that want to get into the real estate business. So make sure you share this video and let someone else know how to get started and buy their first rental property. Thanks guys, I'm Mitch Durfee. Check out the links below, and I'll see you guys on the flip side.
You who pursue excellence at such an enormous level and actually attain it. Mitch Durfee, CEO, best-selling author, keynote speaker, business coach, realtor, and veteran, has built an empire of business and now coaches, provides mentorship, and the advice you need to ensure success in your life. Founder of Grunts Move Junk, Green Rock Investments, and online startup Box, Mitch Durfee has constructed and created a lasting empire with lasting impact and devotion to your success. A believer in education, wealth creation, and knowledge development, Mitch Durfee is the mentor you need and the mentor you want on your team. Learn more at mitchdurfee.com. That's mitchdurfee.com.